Welcome to America's Freedom Seminar. You're about to take a journey that may surprise you. We're going to explore what freedom really is, down to its roots. Of course, everyone already knows what freedom is in simple terms, but there is much more, and it's a delicious feast. We'll even include dessert. When this journey is over, you'll understand more about freedom than you'd ever thought possible. Would you agree that such a journey is crucial to making wise choices in life? Surprisingly, in this presentation, we will not be delving into the great Constitution that stands guard over our precious freedom. We're not ready for that yet. In the meantime, we hope this introduction will magnify your hunger, your deep desire to restore and retain our God-given freedom, but even more, to increase it. This deep and abiding desire includes caring more about our neighbor's freedom too, and better, the freedom of billions of our brothers and sisters throughout the world, those who now suffer abuse, starvation, poverty, mutilation, and plagues, often caused in large part by those who lead them, or rather, those who mislead them. First, let's begin with our own government leaders, and then zoom down to each of us and the rights we were given at birth as a gift from God. But now we'll focus on our government officials. All officers and civil servants of the federal government are required to take the following oath. I do solemnly swear or affirm. The word affirm is used for those whose religion prohibits swearing, thereby allowing them to make their oath of allegiance. That I will support and defend the... Well, what is the word here? It is written in a foreign alphabet. How can anyone pledge to honor something he doesn't understand? If refusing to take this pledge cost you your job, would you blindly sign your name to it anyway? Isn't that risky? Let's test your personal principles or standards. Will you swear to defend this principle in Article 125 of the Constitution? How about this one? Freedom of the press, freedom of assembly. Will you raise your hand and swear to uphold these rights? Well, congratulations. You just joined Joseph Stalin in swearing to defend this portion of the 1936 Constitution of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Just take a look at the deceptive nature of this document and how promised freedom declared in one place is thereafter taken away in the same document. For example, Article 103. In all courts, cases are tried with the participation of people's assessors. Maybe the trial will be fair. Except in cases specially provided for by law. So, a law passed by legislators, controlled by the nation's dictator instead of the people, could send you wrongfully to a gulag in Siberia or to your death. Article 111 contains another loophole. In all court cases of the USSR, cases are heard in public, unless otherwise provided for by law. And whose law is that? Certainly not the people's law. Article 127. No person can be placed under arrest except by decision of a court or with the sanction of a procurator. You see, this is just the appearance of fairness. The fact is, anybody can be arrested at any time at the whim of the procurator. A procurator is appointed only because he is loyal to the dictator, making each procurator a puppet of the state's governing tyrant. Article 113, our last example. Supreme supervisory power over the strict execution of the laws is vested in the Procurator of the USSR. Well, read dictator as procurator with a capital P, who controls everything through lackeys using loopholes in the Soviet Constitution. The point for us? Well, we need to know what we are committing to when we take an oath, and why. Let's return to the oath of office for civil servants of the American federal government. What we couldn't read last time was the word Constitution. It was written in the Russian language. Of course, it's not the Soviet Constitution our officials are committing to, but the Constitution of the United States. To defend it against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me God. This oath forms the basis upon which we trust our leaders to protect our rights. Did you notice that this oath also implies that the oath taker is making a sacred covenant with God? Some would argue about that, but asking God's help is asking His approval and blessing for taking the oath, as we would for any personal oath we make with God. For those taking office at the state level, we'll use Utah as an example. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Here the state officers have two constitutions to support and defend. Our concern now should be whether all state and federal employees have or have not been taught the constitutions of either the state or federal government before they took office. How do you think such knowledge of the powers and bounds of those documents would affect their decisions? Would these officers think in harmony with these constitutions, documents they swore to obey? In Utah, state law directs all public schools to teach the United States Constitution. Nothing is said about the state constitution. Thorough study. Has any student in Utah or any state received a thorough education in any guiding document that preserves our nation's liberty, which is the basis for our prosperity as well? As we note the behavior of some state officials and our numerous laws, is it reasonable for us to question whether our officers are acquainted with and obeying the Constitution, state and federal? Were treasured traditions that preserve our liberty passed on to them, or anyone in the schools, in a meaningful way? Were you taught the Constitution? What will happen to our nation if even one generation is raised without understanding our Constitution? The frightening fact is that we're always just one generation away from losing our freedom from such neglect. Nevertheless, our immediate objective in this seminar is not to review the Constitution, but rather the basis or foundation upon which it stands. No one should trust a wobbly or unstable foundation. The provisions of the Constitution won't be important to us if we can't trust the methods it uses to protect our freedom. Who wants to read or even obey an unbelievable, wandering, inconsistent, and flawed document? We will examine the foundation of the Constitution to prove to our satisfaction that the Constitution really does stand firm to support our liberty. In other words, the Constitution is meaningless without first understanding the principles built into it and under it. Yes, the legal framework of the Constitution is not easy reading. It is confusing or even boring if we do not understand what the founders were trying to do for us. When we do understand, we find every word to be profound. This brings us to our first hurdle, thinking. Thinking is the hardest work there is, which is probably the reason why so few engage in it. Henry Ford. So many today are willing to let others do it for them. Not us. Let us give it a try and see how rewarding it can be.